Okay. Now we begin with 4 immeasurable, right?
Yes.
Usually, in many of the practices, in almost all the many of the practices, we do find the 4 immeasurable preceded by going for refuge, right?
在我们很多的这个仪轨当中，我们发现我们的这个四无量心经常是跟在这个皈依大心后面的修行。
In many of the right. Once we have taken the refuge, we need to do it refuge recitation 6 times a day, usually, right?
如果我们 even just for refugee，
Yeah. So not only that, even in some even for example, if you are going to the east, it is also recommended that we go for refuge to those Buddhas who abide in the east. Similarly, if you travel in any direction, we we need to go for refuge and homage to those Buddhas in that direction that one is traveling to. Right. So then, in many of the activities, in many of the one's activities, always going for refuge. It's a good thing. It's a very good thing, and it's also the benefit of oneself, And then, right. And then once the refuge is done, then one do the meditation on the 4 immeasurable thought. One's mind should be infused with the 4 immeasurable thought, right? So the purpose of doing the immeasurable thought is when we do the refuge prayer, we have cultivated the wish, the wish to become enlightened, the wish to become Buddha, in order to the wish to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all the sentient beings. So we have generated this mind, awakening mind or altruistic mind. So this altruistic mind need to be strengthened and stabilized. For that very reason, we are doing the 4 immeasurable thought. 4 immeasurable thought. Now, what are the 4 immeasurable thought, right? The 4 immeasurable thought are, the first one is the immeasurable thought of the love, the immeasurable thought of compassion, the immeasurable thought of the joy, the immeasurable thought of equanimity. So we have these 4 immeasurable thoughts. Why this? Why all these 4 immeasurable thoughts? Why they are called immeasurable? These 4 thoughts are called immeasurable because the object of these immeasurable thoughts are limitless. That means sentient beings are limitless. By observing towards something which is immeasurable, you also create a immeasurable merit. So that's why these 4 thoughts are immeasurable thoughts. Right. Now here, when we read, it says, may all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from blissful state. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. Right. So now, although we are reading like this, although these are words, mere words, the words of the 4 immeasurable prayers, but then at the same time, the very important thing is, even in the refuge, when we talk about refuge, just with the thought to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly until I reach enlightenment. So this is the words. The very important thing is now try to visualize. Visualization is the real essence of going for refuge. The essence. Similarly, because we need to, whether it is going for refuge or whether we are doing immeasurable thought, the essence and the main part is that your mind need to be, one's mind need to be something something infused or affected. One's mind need to be affected by the thought, thought itself. Right. As the great Master Ksitigarbah says, it is not enough, it is not sufficient that the teaching itself is the Mahayana teaching. The person, the practitioner, and the person himself or herself must be Mahayanist. The practitioner of Mahayana, that not teaching itself. So the person need to become the Mahayana, the practitioner of the Mahayana, right? So similarly, here the thought is very important, right? Thought process. That's very important. Because it is the thought which brings the transformation, right? It is through the thought transformation. So while we read, first is begin with the immeasurable love. The first verse, may all sentient beings have happiness in courses, talks about the immeasurable love. The second, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes, talks about the immeasurable compassion. The third one, may all sentient beings being never be parted from blissful state, talks about the immeasurable joy. The fourth one, may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bliss, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. So the last one is equanimity, the immeasurable equanimity. Again, now it is very important to not just to read, but need to think, right? Need to correct one's thought, right? And that is how. So, how are we going to meditate on this immeasurable, 4 immeasurables, right?
像师傅刚才讲到的，核心的就是让自己产生觉受。
So in this verse, four immeasurable verse, I think there are two ways of doing the meditation. Two ways of doing.
这个四无量心的这四句的内容，我们怎么样子来禅修呢？按照传统上来说，我有2种方法可以来禅修。
Right. This is so this is one type of immeasurable, right? There is another type of immeasurable, although the meaning same, but the words different. Words different, right?
另外一种呢，虽然意思是一样的，但是呢，它的词句呢稍微有点差别。
Here, the immeasurable love is begin in the very first, right? The words written. Now, if you were to do the meditation, right, then now the two different tradition comes, right? One is one is the tradition according to the tradition according to what is called as I don't know if you name, I don't know how to say in English, champion nature, yeah. And the champion, yeah, the yogi of love, there's one yogi by the name of the yogi of love. That champion nature, Lama champion nature, yeah.
那第一个传统呢是以Lama
champion nature is sometimes we call as
make sure it's on, and I'm gonna ring the bell.
Because sometimes called as younger Kusali.
Now,
Kusali, because Kusali
I would like to see it.
is a very popular practitioner for mind, popular mind training practitioner. Younger Kusali.
Do you have a tape measure? Do you have a tape measure? It should be 4
So
feet above
according
the
to the
ground.
younger Kusali, according to the there's a Kusali, younger Kusali and elder Kusali, right? Elder Kusali and the Indian great master, Nalinda Buddhist master, right? So according to this tradition, mind training practitioner, when we do the four immeasurable, the master Ksitigarbah say, right? The one that 7-point mind training, we talked a little bit earlier. Master Ksitigarbah was saying, he was citing Podova. Master Ksitigarbah say, Podova is saying to me that in the tradition of Lama Selingba, right? In the tradition of Lama Selingba, we don't do the equanimity, right? We do the directly from exchanging self and others first, exchanging self and exchanging self and others. We begin with this practice, right? Then that means may all sentient beings, now the four immeasurable are begin with meditation. When we do meditation, then you give the love, right? According to this tradition, it talks about exchanging self and others, right? Because when we talk about exchanging self and others, how we are going to exchanging self and other side? Exchanging self and other means cherish others more than oneself, right? Now, so far, what happened? So far, we cherish ourselves, right? And then we ignore, or how to say, we neglect others, right? Now this is exchanged. This is exchanged. We now we ignore ourselves. We cherish others, right? So that means exchanging self and others. So that is what is meant exchanging self and others, right? Now how are we going to do about exchange, cherishing others and cherishing others more than cherishing oneself, right? Now that is done by giving love to others, giving compassion to others, giving joy to others, giving equanimity to others, right? So this one, so this is the first tradition, right? According to Lama Champenenjo's tradition, right? Because when we talk about training the mind, one is begin from cultivating equanimity, right? Another one is directly begin with exchanging self and other. The second one now proceed with, right? The second one proceed with training in training in, first begin with training in equanimity, cultivate equanimity. So the Master Adisha has both the tradition, both exchanging self and others and beginning from the cultivation of the equanimity. Adisha possessed both these two traditions, right? Then through that, Adisha passed to, through Adisha, then keep on passing until the Ksitigarbah. Ksitigarbah, that means Ksitigarbah has both these traditions, right? So now, according to the second tradition, is now we don't begin with the love, we don't begin with the compassion, we don't begin with the joy, because now we just begin training in the mind, transforming the mind, begin with cultivating the equanimity. So equanimity is first done, right? Because in order to cultivate love, in order to cultivate compassion to others, first we need to how to say, we need to equalize our mind, right? We need to equalize our mind, otherwise if we don't equalize our mind becomes biased. With biased mind, we cannot develop love, we cannot develop compassion. There's no basis. So we first train in cultivating equanimity, immeasurable equanimity, right? Now when we talk about equanimity, right, there are two kinds of equanimity, right? There are two feelings of equanimity. The first equanimity, that is all, we are in the thought process, right? The first equanimity is, when we already talked about it, when we try to train in the, cultivate, when we try to cultivate the altruistic mind, right? Awakening mind, the mind of enlightenment.
利他性的说法的时候，
we all begin from the cultivating the equanimity,
我们所说的
right?
平等舍心。
So this equanimity,
这样的一种平等心呢，
right? So this equanimity is just, equanimity. The function of the equanimity is, I need to cultivate the equanimity towards others,
我们
towards all the sentient beings.
对一切
I need to cultivate the equanimity for the benefit of all the sentient beings.
我们
So
这样
this
做的
is
利益
one.
目的是为了利益一切的众生。
But now here, the equanimity that we are talking about, is the equanimity not from your side, but from the sentient being side,
而在这
from
里
the
呢
side of the sentient beings.
自无量心的时候，这里的这个平等心呢，的区别是
Now
我们所祈愿的，并不是说我们对一切众生产生平等心，而是从众生的角度上来讲，祈愿他们的内心里面能够升起这样的一种平等心。
You are wishing the sentient beings to have equanimity.
祈愿说一切的众生，
Right.
他们自己的内心，
It is not from your side. You are just simply wishing sentient beings to have equanimity,
并不是在这里呢，并不
the
是
sense
愿
of
我
the
自己
feeling of equanimity.
而是愿一切众生都能够具备这样的一种心，
Because
因为
then, how wonderful it would be if all the sentient beings have
我们心里面会升起，
if all the sentient beings have
一
equanimity.
切的众生的内心里面都能够升起平等舍心的话，是多么的美妙啊！
May they do have equanimity. Number two, may they do have equanimity.
然后接着我们会想说，愿他们能够真实的升起平等心在内心里面。
Right. May I help them to cultivate equanimity. May I help them to develop equanimity
需要
for them.
能够帮助一切的众生，令他们的内心里面升起这样一种平等心。
In order to do that,
为了令这样子的，为了令这样子的祈愿能够发生，
before, when we do the refuge, we have visualized, right?
我们之前
We visualize something,
我们已经讲到
Buddha in front, surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas,
讲到了观想，在我们一走长的眉心的地方，
right? So in the last,
有
how wonderful if sentient beings have equanimity. May they do have equanimity.
因此呢，在这里我们在祈祷，
May I help them to cultivate equanimity.
内心能够升起平
In order to do that,
愿我能够帮助他们升起。
oh Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, please
为了
give me a
这样子的
blessing,
发生，我们祈愿佛
right? So this is how it
这
follows,
三法，请您给我加持。这个是我们什么样子来做观想
right?
？Memorable.
Hmm?
Some of the students was not in the last class.
I see.
We quickly reviewed the meditation on the refugee, and then following was the quite measurable. Also good to remind students again so they can remember much clearly.
Right.
You can do it rough, quick.
Oh yeah. When we do the visualization, because why do we do the refuge visualization? To receive the blessing, just to receive the blessing,
为什么要做观想？
Because thought is sometimes very powerful, It's because everything, your physical action and verbal action is determined, decided by your mind, thought, right?
我们的内心是非常的重要。
So therefore, thought becomes very, very, important thing.
内心开始
Everything is decided by one's mind, Right. So that means now we, in our earlier last time discussion, we visualized the, refuge, we called,
讲到的皈依，
we visualize something, we visualize
我们观想
something, a kind of, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This is called the object of, we called
三宝。那我们这里呢，我们讲
the object of refuge. We call object of refuge, right?
皈依境，
So-
皈依的对境，我们的皈依境。
So,
首先我们要观想我们的皈依境，
at what distance you visualize that,
我们怎么样子来观想？
So, at what distance means
离我们多远呢？
when you make the prostration, how far your body can, when you make the full prostration, full length prostration, how far your body, whole body can reach. Up to that level, then you visualize the object of refuge, right? Object of refuge, Buddha Shakyamuni, right? Buddha Shakyamuni, I mean, you get the image, holding the his hand with a bowl filled with fine nectar. I don't go much into detail all these things, right? And then wearing the saffron robe, who is that Buddha Shakyamuni is surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Right now, I'm just trying to explain as simple as possible. Usually, they are separate visualization. It takes time. So I don't go, right? There is separate visualization. But I don't go about this. We do the simple one, right? So who is surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, right? Then rays of light, rays of light emanating from all this, from their body, for refuge body, right? Refuge. So if you can visualize, you visualize the throne, throne, the 8-line throne. I think 8-line supported by 8-line throne. On that throne is a lotus. On the top of the lotus is a moon disk. On the moon disk is seated Buddha Shakyamuni. So you visualize that, and then who is all surrounded by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then from the body, rays of light emanate. Right, rays of light emanate, and all your all your negativities are purified, and all right, and you. So then, for example, you are here, on your right side is your father, on your left side is your mother, on your back side, it's up to you, in front you can also visualize your enemy, or and then on the back side is your close relative, the close ones or the dear ones, and then all of you are surrounded by sentient beings, limitless sentient beings. So you visualize all of them, devotionally, going for refuge. Right, going for refuge. And then, we are reading, right, with the thought to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly until I reach one enlightenment. Right, and then when you are done with until I reach one enlightenment, right, third word in the last verse, and then again another rays of light come. Another rays of light come, and then you are blessed with becoming Buddha. You are blessed with attaining enlightenment. Right. So this is how we visualize a brief visualization. Then the detail, we can discuss, and more on, when the right time comes. Right. So with this, then we begin with the 4 immeasurable, right? So may all sentient beings have the equanimity. May they do have equanimity in order to do so. May I help them to cultivate the equanimity. In order to myself help them to cultivate equanimity, please, oh, the merit field, the refuge, the object of refuge, give me the blessing, grant me the blessing.
So we start
So-
with the equanimity.
Right, equanimity, right.
在这里呢，我们首先第一步呢，所修的是慈无是舍无量，平等舍无量心。因此呢，我们要向三宝祈祷啊，愿我能够帮助一切的众生内心里面升起这样的一种平等舍心，请他给我加持。
It look like those, who are beginner, begin with cultivating. Those who are already matured, those who are already, well trained, begin from exchanging self and others, right from the onset.
对于内心的这个力量不是很广大的人呢，我们首先从平等舍心开始。那对于那些比较高阶的修行者呢，他们可以直接从这个自他相化成的这个观想开始。
Right. So then, we now may all the sentient beings,
我们心里面想说，
the sentient beings do have, equanimity, right?
愿一切众生内心里面都能够升起平等心，远离一切的贪嗔，对其他人的贪心和嗔心。
First, in order to, we wish
首先，
we wish
这样的一个祈愿，
we wish that other beings, sentient beings, have equanimity. In order to,
首先我们要升起这样的一个祈愿。
in order to,
愿望，
you wish them, first you need to do right.
都能够升起。
We need to have equanimity for ourselves first.
能够升起说愿一切众生都具足平等心的时候，那首先我们自己内心里面应该要具足这样的一个心。
Now, how we are going to cultivate or develop the equanimity with ourselves, within ourselves first,
这样
right?
子来讲的话，那我们怎么样说自己首先升起内心里面升起平等心，对待一切众生的平等心。
Right. So, the first one, we visualize. I already discussed a few times this. We visualize 3%, right? 3%.
那我们再回顾我们以前上课的内容，
Someone who is
我们首先我们要关注
someone who is close to you,
三类的
even your close one or dear one,
我们自己亲人。
or somebody who is stranger, stranger.
那一类呢是我们的
You are not familiar with that person, complete, neutral. We call neutral person.
陌生人，是我们对
Neither your friend nor your
既
enemy.
不是我们的朋友，也不是
It's a neutral person, just stranger.
对于我们是一个中性的人。
The third one is for example, your enemy or somebody whom you don't dislike, whom you dislike,
另外一类呢，就是我们非常讨厌的人，我们很讨厌的人，我们的敌人。
right? And then we check, right? This one, Now, for example, these three people are, suffering. All these three people really need help.
去观察，他们跟我们一样，
They are in need of your help.
受
They are suffering
需要我们的
the same degree of suffering. They are
如果他
suffering.
们经受着同等程度的
Right. Now, if
需要我们的帮助，
we were given the chance, if we were given the the alternative, alternative, whom you are going to help,
能够去帮助他们其中的人，其中的一个
whom
人，
we are going to help, right?
我们会做怎么样子的选择？
Then we say, your thought, naturally, your thought naturally,
我们自己的内心
some kind of,
自然的
a sense of, unbearable
一种
towards the close one.
亲人，
When you see the person, your close one suffering, you feel
我
unbearable.
们内心里面
We feel unbearable, right? A sense of unbearableness of that person suffering. Then neutral person, when you see their suffering,
当我们看到他们在受苦的时
we
候，
don't feel
我们可能
more or less, no feeling. However,
还对于那些我们
on the other hand,
当他们
somebody to whom you dislike or your enemy, when you see that person, going through suffering, we wish that,
我们可能会很开心，
we wish that was for suffering.
我们可能还会想说，哇，希望他们受更多的苦。
Right. So if you try to analyze,
这样子来说，
why we are doing all these things,
我们要问自己，啊，我们为什么内心会升起这样子的一种感觉？
why we are doing all these things is because if you try to check the reason, if you just try to check the reason, we simply find because the close one helped me
分析
physically, emotionally, verbally, either physically or from all this. Whereas the enemy, we develop equanimity, we feel some kind of neutral, some kind of feeling of equanimity. Because therefore you have nothing to do with that person.
我们对自己的亲人是有很多的爱心，而对陌生人呢，我们因为跟他不熟，没有什么关系。
Whereas when it comes to the enemies, your enemy side, or somebody to whom you dislike,
特别是我们讨厌的人，
that person, if you are being asked, why you are not ready to help,
我们如果别人问我们，
and then our only thought, our only reason
内心
uh,
理由
must
一
be
定是
because that person physically
因为
or emotionally or verbally harm
语
me.
言上以及精神上伤害过我。
Now then this from beginning, from that stage, now we are trying to cultivate equanimity.
从这样的一种分析的，
If that really is the case,
我们
because
才来
just for the temporary purpose,
这样子
just for the temporary, purpose, then if that is the case, and then,
我们这样子的理由，
because your enemy,
短期的一个
I don't want to help, that was that enemy bring me harm,
我的敌人
brought me
伤害
harm,
我，所以我不想去帮助他们。
right, brought me harm. Then we say
然后我们说
temporary, no.
短暂的，
So this is how, mind training works, right?
这就是我们修心的法门是怎么样子工作的一个过程。
We already talk about the, the subject of the patience, right?
都谈论过修习忍辱心或者安忍。
Why that person becomes the enemy in the first place?
我们问自己，
that
为什么那个人在一开始会成为我们的敌人，会成为我们讨厌的人？
and then right. So there, if you try to see through many reasons,
我们从各个角度，
many reasons, right? And then, then one's own, act is also involved, becoming that person your enemy, your
这
own
个人
enemy,
他成为我
right?
们的敌人，
Oh,
我们自己也参与在了当中，我们自己的行为也参与在了当中。
right. And then, if that person is enemy for the time being, that does not mean that person will remain as an enemy forever.
那我们要去分析，如果
Because
是我们的敌人，那这样的一个敌人，
Because
会永远是我们的敌人。
because
答案是不会，
things
因为
are impermanent and things are unpredictable.
事情都是不可。
Things are unpredictable. If somebody is, poor, that person
一个人，他如果现在贫穷，
may not remain
不代表
poor
他会
forever,
永远的贫穷。
right? So we already talk about few times we talk about the we talk about the we talk about the eight types of suffering and 6 types of suffering.
之前的
The second suffering, which is the suffering of uncertainty. In the uncertainty,
第二个
one is the friendship and the enemy is unpredictable.
我们为什么我们讲到苦无常当中呢？我们也讲到我们的
So we use all this reason, right?
无常的。你在这里呢，就可以
You see all the big class, big, castle.
我们的城堡，我们的高楼
Even we use the symbol, symbol kind of thing, there is nothing which should remain as so solid as forever. Right. For example, many marvelous, the wonders, many marvelous and the wonders are being seen, right? Now, for example, just taking like Taj Mahal, right? The Taj Mahal was erected, built, in order to and also the builder, for example, expecting that it should remain for a long time. So fascinating, right? First fascinating. But then now they're still complaining due to the pollutions, now the colors of the Taj Mahal not right. So things are like this, because we expecting the things are also to remain so permanent and eternal, should never change, If things are something which accords with our, mind, then it should be. Because our mind thinks, our thought, things. If things are permanent, it should remain as permanent, not like this, right? But in reality, not the case. That's not the case, right? So, so in any way, the friendship and so-called, these are the enemy, or foe, or something not long lasting. So, right, and then how we cannot guarantee that this enemy will become the greatest, supporter, your greatest supporter, right? The only thing is, certain causes and conditions make us. But then, when the right time comes, that enemy can become the, the greatest your supporter and your greatest, admirer. We see on in this, in this world, we see different kinds of things, Right? It's not everywhere we see, friends turn into enemy and enemy turns into friend. This is a reality. So with this understanding, then what happened? Then we, for the enemy side, we, the degree of dislike or hatred is minimized, right? It's reduced. The strength is reduced. Whereas on the close ones, in the case of the close ones, so this is the same, although, temporarily we say, oh, this benefit me, help me. But then again, as we discussed, if somebody is, if somebody is, your close one, right? That person, cannot remain as a close one forever, because finally we have to go to this. We have to go beyond, right? When the time comes, then we have to lift everything behind. We need to go into a different way, different realm, a different place, right? So by thinking about this, by thinking about this line, then there is then we also don't get too attached, too attached to the close one, and we don't too attached, we are able to cultivate the equanimity, right? From the enemy side, yeah, that person, it is very possible that the enemy is going to help me, that person really doing a lot of good, nice thing, right? Then, right, then the question is, because when we think about when we think about the unpredictability of your enemy, right? Enemy, or or it is very possible that that enemy should bring me a lot of benefits to me. Can you? If we visualize in such a way, then do we able to cultivate the love for the enemy or not, right? Similarly, when we try to think about the when we think about the when we think about your close ones who may are possible to bring harm to you, in that case, do we develop a sense of hatred to your close one? No. One need to train in that, but we will not able to cultivate the love for the enemy, neither love for the enemy nor hatred for your close one. We are just simply trying to cultivate the equanimity. So this is the equanimity. So then, when we are able to cultivate the equanimity, then there is the real basis, the real basis for cultivating a sense of genuine love, genuine compassion, genuine joy. Otherwise, our mind, get biased. Here say, may all sentences free from bias. If our mind is, not free from bias, there's no way to cultivate a sense of genuine appreciation, right? The love and compassion, right? So this one, then we right. So we develop by training in this, we are able to cultivate the sense of equanimity towards other, right? But then, in order to cultivate the sense of equanimity towards others, one need to act. One need to, also cultivate the equanimity for yourself, right? For oneself. Again, in order to cultivate, in order to extend the equanimity, in order to, wish other sentient beings to have equanimity, do we need to cultivate equanimity? So that's the question, right? Sure, of course. Then, right, because in order to extend love towards others, in order to cultivate the compassion, the love towards others, first we need to have love for ourselves, right? Because without love towards oneself, there is no way that you can extend love to others. Right. So, therefore, cultivating the love and compassion is the very basis for cultivating the love and compassion to others. Right. But now we have the basis, right? If we cultivate equanimity, we can. If we cultivate love, we can cultivate, right? If we cultivate compassion, because there's a seed. Now, what is the seed? Where does this side come from, right? So therefore, this very seed, the very seed of love and compassion comes from the mother. Because mother's milk is the embodiment of love and compassion. It's the embodiment of love. Mother's milk, right? Because without mother's milk, we wouldn't have survived. We would have died already. Right? So therefore, right from the very childhood, right from the small childhood, the mother takes the greatest care, the love giving love and compassion towards the child. Because, for example, those sometimes child brought under very the parents lot of struggle, right? Struggle, and then a lot of very unfortunate situation. The child brought under that situation, very difficult, right? Life become very difficult because that person bereft of love and compassion when childhood. Then someone who was brought in such a situation where there is a bereft of love and compassion, and then then you get some modern education like this, and then no interest about the inner values, we call secular ethics, concern about the inner values, the human values, just external things are the best way to create inner joy, the joy and happiness, joy and happiness, and also these joy are merely the pleasurable experiences, sensory pleasurable experience, not mental joy.
You mean for those who did not grow up with a great care?
Yeah, great care, and and with this, yeah, there's a danger of such thing,
有可能说他们在长大之后呢，很可能比较困难的去追求内在的快乐和平静，反而会去强调说追求外在的这些感官上的快乐。
Right. So therefore, the love and compassion comes from the mother.
我们的慈悲的种子来源于我们的。
So therefore, we say, but I have no experience, right? So therefore, we say the parents, need to spend their maximum time during the childhood for the child.
说父亲跟母亲应该给予孩子尽可能的陪伴他们。
No, we are. I'm going to
You mentioned that equanimity is the foundation.
Yeah. Equanimity, yeah. So, right. So equanimity is the very foundation on which we then build the love, compassion, all these things. Right. Then with this equanimity, right, then give love. Give love towards other. But then what is the basis for giving love? Right. You need to give love to other in order to. No, we may say, why do I need to give love? Why do I need to give compassion? Why do I need to cultivate compassion towards others? What it has to do with me? We may think, right? Many things, because then then we say the basis of cultivating love and the basis of cultivating compassion is because this is from the Buddhist perspective, because all the sentient beings has been once mother, limitless time, since beginningless time, and will be once mother in the future. Number one. And the second reason is sentient beings, all the beings, just like oneself.
一切的众生
Just as you want happiness,
犹如我一般，
others are also same in wanting happiness.
也是想要
Just as you do not want suffering, all the other sentient beings also
想要一切的痛苦，
do not want suffering.
也不想要任何。
From their perspective,
从这样的
same.
一个角度上来看，我与其他的一些众生是一样的，没有任何的区别。
So here, so now when it comes to the second one, now this is universal. This is not Buddhist faith. This is not only the Buddhist understanding. This is the reality.
是的价值，
This is the
这
reality.
是现实。
Because this is the very something very precious.
这是一个非常宝贵的
Right.
想法。
Sometimes what happens is we take others. We try to take others' position, right, of ourselves, right, like this.
我们站在别人的角度来思考，
Too many problems,
我们很多的问题，
personal problem, individual problem, to the
自身个人的问题，
national problem,
至于
international problem.
国际的问题，
All these problems
所有的这些问题，
sometimes occurs because we forget the fundamental thing.
都忘记了
We forget the fundamental, that
以
is
为根本
everybody want happiness, do not want suffering.
一切的所有的人都想要快乐，
Right.
不想要痛苦。
But then, secondary value comes.
我们这是
Many of the problem, many problem arises,
但是我们很多的
whether we are able to practice it or not is a different case, Just important to understand. Just very important to understand. Many of the problems,
但是很重要的是我们
at personal level, at national level, or family level, or many of the problems,
到家庭到国家
all
到
arises,
很多的问题
all this problem arises from placing too much emphasis on the secondary values.
从强调过于强调
This is reality. This is reality.
所谓的二次价值就是没有认识到我们
I'm just trying to explain. I have no power to do this. Right.
他只是来给我们解释，他
So
自
many
己并没有这样的一个力量。
Right. So, second, this is secondary,
说的
too much emphasis on secondary value.
二次
But then,
价值观
how do we develop, how do we place too much emphasis on the secondary values? Now,
我们怎么说
finally, self-cherishing attitude.
我们怎么说是
Everything comes from self-cherishing
二次的
attitude.
价值
Because of the self-cherishing attitude, there's no happiness. There's no mental joy.
的自私的
Maybe some physical pleasure, right? Pleasurable experiences at physical level, but deep inside, there's no mental joy
因为我们真爱
because of
我
this
们可能说
too much self-centered attitude and self-cherishing attitude.
快乐，但是我们这样深层次的内涵是没有的。这是
Right.
往往就是来源于我们自己真爱自我的这样的一种心。
So they like this. And then, sometimes I'm going too far. I don't know. Coming difficult to getting back at home.
You talk about the second reason, and everyone, all the sentient beings and us are the same, wanting happiness, don't want suffering.
Yeah,
The reason for why do we need to generate compassion?
right. Yeah, the first one. All are wanting happiness, not wanting,
我们一切的众
Suffering.
生跟我们一样，
So that's very beautiful, right?
不想要痛苦。仅仅这样的一个概念，这是一个非常
Just as I want, yes.
犹如我，
Sometimes, but this thing, need to train,
必须要这样去培养自己的内心思维。
train and then sometimes, or when some problem about,
事情发生的时候，
arise, just thinking help,
发生的时候，
Sometimes it helps,
这样去想，
Sometimes forget.
有时候
Right.
这样会有帮助。
When thinking, yeah, it really helps,
有时候我们会
Sometimes
但是当你
Yeah.
真的这样去思维的时候，
I also get forget.
内心会，所以说他有时候自己也会忘记。
Then, oh,
当事情发生，我们这样子来想，
oh, I should not do this and do that, other person get hurt,
这样去做，
或
或这样
What happened
会
if I'm being in that situation,
他人也会说
I'm unhappy. So similarly, others are also same.
为什么呢？
So this is a very, nice thing,
我也是一样的，我会同样有同样的感受。
So this is one of also the basis where we can cultivate love and compassion.
这也是我们第二个很重要的一个基础，我们可以申请慈悲心。
And then the third one is because sentient beings are grateful to oneself, grateful to you, right? So this may, we may
具有恩德，
we may wonder, how other people, grateful to you, right? Yeah, one's close one family, the dear ones and near ones, we can say, oh, they are grateful to oneself. But how about other people? How other people are grateful to oneself?
对我有恩德，但是怎么样说别人对我有恩德？其他的那些人，
Right. So now take an example, I also take this.
我们举一个例子，
if you are alone in this world, no sentient being,
如果这个世界上
what would be the
其他人，只有我们自己一个人，
right? No, just it's very common sense,
这是我们的一个
Due to coronavirus,
常，
people are locked down
因为我们的
for 3 months. After 3 months,
都被关在
many of the people are on the beach together. Why?
马上就有很多人，不到3个月都有很多人
Come together,
跑到这个地铁上
huge gathering.
聚会这样子，
This clearly shows this clearly shows
显示了
the social animal.
我们人类
Social animal,
社交的动物，
the happiness of oneself depends on the other, happiness of other. This clearly stated.
就是
So therefore,
直观的，
you cannot survive without the, without the other sentient beings, the presence.
我们都没有办法在这个世界上生存，如果仅仅是我们自己一个人。
Not only this, right? If we have no electricity,
如果我
for
们没有电，
1 year, what would happen?
如果我们1年都没有电，我们会。
So we then appreciate electricians are grateful to you.
如果我们家里1年都没有电，
Where do the food, even the tea that I enjoy, where does that tea come from?
产生
Right.
生产起很大的感激心。
Few
如果我们没有茶叶，我们
a couple of months ago, a couple of weeks ago, months ago,
几个月之前，
in California, a lot of fire here and there.
这里有很多的火，
Not only some other states. If there are no firefighters,
别的州，如果没有
if there are not firefighters, let
人员，
firefighters not involved, let it be. We are not alive. We won't have alive. So all these are due to the firefighters' kindness, grateful,
我们说这
right?
些都是
So we can prove sentient beings are grateful to oneself,
对于我们整个社区的恩德。
like this. So when we try to, think about all these things, try to visualize all things, then there's an inner basis. There's a very, strong basis,
这样子去思维，
that we cultivate the love
我们内心里面就有
towards other,
一个
right?
根基，一个基础，来帮助我们
We cultivate the love towards other.
对他人的爱心。
But again, when we talk about, cultivating love, cultivating compassion, sometimes it is easy,
强调说，当我们谈论到
sometimes it's a little bit seems easy, but really, need to, I mean, for example, like beggar, for someone who is going through, unfortunate,
对于一些人
situation,
特别是
unfortunate, event, then we are able to cultivate love right? We are able to cultivate love. We are able to cultivate compassion for them. But here, when we talk about cultivating love towards all the sentient beings, towards all, when we talk about sentient being, how do we define sentient being? Sentient being is someone who has the tendency to feel pain and pleasure. Anyone who tends to feel pain and pleasure, the capacity to feel pain and pleasure is described as sentient being. Right. So anyone who has a feeling of pain and pleasure, if we are cultivate love, regardless of the background, that is the genuine love. So here, when we talk about cultivating love and compassion, we are talking about this, the fully qualified love, the fully qualified compassion. Right. Now, right, I may cultivate love, I may cultivate compassion towards others. What do we get? What do I get? Right. What if I cultivate love and compassion towards others, what it has to do with me? What will I get in return? Right. So that's a very important question, right? Sometimes. So, if we are able to cultivate love, for example, if we are able to cultivate love, right? If we are able to cultivate love, what happens? One's own personal problem is reduced. Because when we talk about something love and compassion, we are not talking about then something like next life, something or past life, something in the long future, right? So when we talk about the love, at the practical sense, when we are going through a problem, when we are going through hardship, what actually really helps us, right? Practical sense, in a practical sense. So when we cultivate love, we are able to cultivate the inner calmness. Mental joy, mental happiness. If we cultivate mental joy, if we are able to cultivate mental happiness, it has tremendous effect on your physical well-being. Right. So again, we take the common sense, right? We take a simple example. If we are hospitalized, right? If we are hospitalized, in the hospital, you are taken care of by nurse or the doctor, right? If irrespective and regardless of doctor's background, right, or the nurse background, but if the doctor and the nurse take care the patient with love and the sincere affection and love, they say the patient can recover soon. It is very possible because such an affection had tremendous impact on the patient's illness, the recovery of the illness, right? And then, however, doctors and patients, no matter how, high educated, highly qualified, if they treated the patient like, a robot, machine, the situation get worse. Let alone, get recovery, the patient situation, get worse. So this simple thing show the importance, the importance and the power of the love, power of the love and affection, right? Not only this, we see somebody in the hospital, suffering from some chronic disease, some disease. But surprisingly, the patient seems very calm. Physically suffering, the patient is suffering. But patient is, in some cases, we could see the patient is so calm. Why happened this? Again, this shows the practicality of the strength of the love, the strength of the compassion. So this is practical, so something. Right. Now I can hear. Right. So through this, we can prove we get the benefit, right? We get the maximum benefit. We are able to keep calm. We are able to keep calm. Right. And then with calm mind, everything is realistic. Whatever you do is so realistic. Then we'll come with a calm mind, where you are able to use the maximum, you are able to use the maximum brain, even in solving the problem. You are skillful, right? Because you are dealing the things with the calmness of the mind. If one's mind is so disturbed, then you may have a lot of, one may have a lot of everything. We already say, right, material facilities provide physical well-being, right? Those pleasure experience at sensory level, material facilities cannot provide mental peace and joy. It does provide pleasure experience at physical level, sensory level. The mental peace can be cultivated. The mental peace can be cultivated through the mental thought, such as cherishing others, right? Cherishing others, right? So, so we get the maximum benefit, right? And then we are able to cultivate we are in order to help others, in order to extend love, we ourselves are able to cultivate, to create happiness for ourselves. And then such a cultivation of love.
培养我们的
That's a two unique thing. It does a two unique function.
它有2个
The first function is it create happiness, mental happiness.
它令我们内心
On the other hand, it reduces one's own personal problem.
第二个
I mean, when I talk about personal problem, mainly mental problem, right?
第二个
I mean,
减少了我们内在的烦恼。
mental, mental sickness or mental crisis, whatever it is.
我们
Yeah.
内心的烦恼
By cultivating love,
通过产生
how
爱心、慈心，
how do we reduce personal problem?
我们是如何
Personal, the mental,
内在的烦恼的呢？
the mental, kind of the depression like this.
比如说我们的depression， 我们的抑郁症。
Sometimes then, in the medicine, there's an antidepressant, right?
心理医
Lot
生
of
会
good things.
这些抗抑郁的药。
If we really, very good at, knowing all these things, one no need to take antidepressant.
如果我们真的了解这些，
Because
我们应该是不需要
depression comes from not from
这些
outside, maybe come from inside,
因为抑郁它完完全全的来源于我们的内心，而并不是来源于外在。
Right. So, because when the love is increased, when the strength of the love is increased,
慈心
when we cultivate the love,
当我们慈心的力量升起的时候，强大的时候，
the cultivation of the love is based on self-cherishing, based on the
我们
cherishing other.
升起
With
它的
this
基础
cherishing other, based on
基
the
于我们
the
真爱
attitude
他人
of cherishing other, we train in cultivating love.
他人的这样的一种态度，我们来
So-
培养升起悲心、慈心和悲心。
The what is called as the mental joy and the mental peace, the mental calm comes from cherishing other.
我们所说的，我们
So cherishing other is the main source of joy,
来源于
main source of
真爱于他人，我们真爱他人
happiness.
是一切快乐的源泉。
right? Main source of joy. Whereas when the self-cherishing, when the cherishing others, the thought of cherishing others increases,
当我们真爱，
self-cherishing is reduced.
当我们真爱他人的这个心，在
When the
强大
self-cherishing is reduced, much of the problem is also reduced because many of the problem,
就会降低
mental problem arises
当我
from
们执着
self-cherishing
的
thought.
降低的时候，真爱自己的这个心降低的时候，
Right.
我们很多的问题就会
Self-cherishing thought and cherishing others is a opposing force.
我们
When one increases, one reduced.
内心是两个
When
相
one
反
reduces, other
一
increases.
个升起的时候，
Like-
另外一个就会减少，
Like temperature, right?
好像我们的温度一样。
When there's a high, temperature of the heat, the cold temperature of the cold is reduced. Similarly, work at the mental level
不
too.
会冷，当冷的时候不会冷。同样的，我们真爱他人和真爱自己的这两个心是
When the light is on, darkness is dispelled.
当光明升起
Because these are
黑
opposite.
暗就会被驱除，那么他们两个是相
So this is the very basis. There's a lot of unique function. But now the only we understand all this but now the only thing is that we need to think more and then try to cultivate some, because these things are not that easy.
最为重要的是我们要反复的去思维这些内容，而且呢，去培养自己的内心。
Unless we make effort, this thing will not come spontaneously, right? So it does require a training, a little bit training, need the time. It does need time.
训练我们的内心
Once
需要时间。
once well trained,
一旦我
once
们
well
的
trained,
心反复的训练，
the nature of the mind training, the very nature of the mind training and mind transformation is such that
心它有这样的
once
一
you
个
familiarize, once we get used to it,
一旦我们
it becomes so
习惯于
spontaneous.
我们的心就会
You don't need to rely on the effort. It becomes something effortless.
自然的，它就能够升起
Effortless. This is the unique of the mind training,
修心的
mind transformation.
非常特别修心的一个特性特点。 Maru, we have 20 minutes left. Can you go through the visualization?
20 minutes left. Just wait a minute. Just 20 minutes. Okay. Then yeah, next week I think we talk about the second immeasurable. Right now I'm not, we are done with all the immeasurable. Right.
Are there a visualization we can do for the first immeasurable?
Maybe we we do briefly, for maybe 10 minutes. Yeah, too much no good. Visualize first. Important to to.
师傅说呢，我跟他请教说让他教我们这个观想。他说我们慢慢来，一次呢不要讲太多，最重要的是呢，我们要对这些内容呢要能够理解，然后大概10分钟的观想和禅修。
Not this one, the four immeasurable. The unique, also one of the unique thing about four immeasurable is that in our Ksitigarbah tradition, in the Ksitigarbah tradition, Lama Ksitigarbah, Master Ksitigarbah tradition, there are three lineages. There are three lineages. One, the lineage is called Segyu Luk, the son's tradition. Segyu, yeah. Which originates from Ksitigarbah to his, the main, one of the main, his disciple, Jezun Sherab Singye. Jezun Sherab Singye founded the Gyume College, Tantric College. And there are one time he wants to entrust his tantric teachings, Vajrayana teachings, right, in front of many disciples, gathering thousands of disciples. Then he asked, are there anybody who could, and who could uphold my Vajrayana teachings, Nobody dared to get up. Nobody dared to come forward. That I will do. Nobody. He repeated first time. Nobody come because of the might, the wisdom of the Ksitigarbahs. And then on the second time, and then the great master Sherab Singye, Jezun Sherab Singye, stand up, and then I would, So Ksitigarbah is said to have very delighted for this. So that was the Jezun Sherab Singye. One is Sherab Singye's lineage tradition. Another lineage is Segyu, that is called Segyu, And then another one is Ksitigarbah's, because Ksitigarbah tradition is because Ksitigarbah transmitted the unique, Guru devotion practice to Ksitigarbah only, then Ksitigarbah to somebody, right? So where the Ksitigarbah is visualized as the embodiment of the three deities. They're different, there are different ways of doing, the deity practice, So, but I don't know. It takes time. Another one is Vensa lineage. Vensa lineage is pretty popular. Vensa lineage, in the Vensa lineage, almost 6 or 7 masters achieve enlightenment in a single lifetime. Vensa we call ear whispered lineage. It is sometimes called as ear whispered lineage. Because in this lineage, unique lineage, Goya Samaja, Yamantaka, Chakra Samara are practiced, together. Are practiced together, and then in addition to that, Guru devotion of Lama Chopa, Lama Chopa is, because Lama Chopa or Guru devotion is the king of the Guru devotion of the Ensa lineage. So practicing this together, achieve enlightenment. Right. So Ksitigarbah transmitted this to Tode Jambe Gyatso, his main, one of the main disciples. Tode Jambe Gyatso to Pasuchoki Genze to Chugi Doje to Kido Sanghe Ishi to Losan Chokin, like this, So they are passed on to the one after the another. This lineage, not, there are a few many disciples, students give to all. No, not that way. In that tradition, strict tradition, only those who are mature, spiritually mature, if they say, oh, this is the right person, then they transmit. So this happens in that tradition, right? So this is a wonderful tradition. So in that tradition, ear whispered lineage, so equanimity is meditated first. So I think we do better do visualization right now.
现在我们做一下观想和禅修，大家呢也可以做一下笔记，不然的话呢就这样子听也很好，然后我们一边听一边禅修。
So first we meditate in equanimity.
观想，禅修，平等舍心。
In front of you, we visualize the 3 different persons.
我们在我们的面前，我们观想3个人，3类的众生。
Your close one,
我们的亲人
or dear one.
我们的爱人
And the stranger.
我们的陌生人
Then someone to whom you dislike.
我们所讨厌的人。
So we visualize that these 3 persons.
我们观想这3个人。
If you have, your close one to whom you feel love and affection, you visualize that person.
我们产生最强烈的感情。
And you can also visualize someone who is neutral.
我们也观想
And you can also visualize
陌生人。
someone in your one's daily life, or in one's daily life, someone who is, who we do consider as,
看起来好像是我们最讨厌的人，
your enemy.
是我们的敌人。
And both of them, all of these 3 persons are going through the same
他们
difficulties,
都在经受痛苦，
some kind of unimaginable
他们都在经受无法忍受。
suffering. And so under such circumstances, to whom you are going to help?
我们问自己，
To whom are we going to help?
我要帮助谁？
Your mind says, we are going to help to the loved one.
我们自己的内心说，
We
我要帮助我的爱人。
we totally feel indifferent to the neutral one.
我们对那些陌生人没有任何的感受，
We do not want to help at all to your enemy.
内心自然的不想要去帮助我们讨厌的人。
On examination, we then
我们这样子来观察自己的内心，
come to conclusion that it is all due to because the close one or dear one help you temporarily.
我们了解到，我们这样子的选择的原因是，
The neutral person is someone
在短
Don't-
暂，他们
you don't feel any connection.
在暂时的有给予我们帮助，而陌生人，我们没有任何的联系，
And the enemy, we
而我们讨厌的人，
in some worst cases, we prefer them to have suffering.
我们有时候我们希望他们受苦。
So we feel unbearable pain on seeing the suffering of the close one,
因
the
此
dear one.
我们对自己的亲人，当我们想象他们在经受无法忍受痛苦的时候，忍受的痛苦的时候，我们自己的内心里面感觉到非常的痛苦，同样的痛苦。
Similarly, we should also feel the same degree of the wish to help the neutral person.
同样的，我们应该对那个陌生人，我们对他心里对他，当他看到他们在忍受这样子的痛苦的时候，我们心里面应该要升起同样的程度上的感受，
Because
因为
the neutral person, just like your close one, just like your dear one, the neutral person has
我
done
们跟
this,
陌生人，跟我们的亲人一样，
has done the same amount,
也给予了我们
if not the best, has done the great deal of
更多
source of inspiration, has done a great deal of benefit to you.
给予我们同样的给予我们同样的利益，
Not necessarily in this life,
不能仅仅说是此生，
but over many, many
在无数
past
生
limitless life.
在无数生以来，
If you have just like you have sucked the mother's breast milk,
犹如我们饮用母亲的母乳成长，
you have sucked the breast milk of your stranger
用过这样的一个陌生人，
for over many
在
lifetimes.
无数生以来，作为我们母亲时的母乳，
On the top of that, the neutral person,
在这基础之上，
just
这样的一个陌生人，
just like yourself.
他与我们自己一样。
How much we are happy when others do good to ourselves.
我们会感到多么的快乐啊！如果别人对我们很好的话，我们会感受到
How
快
much
乐。
how much do we suffer when others bring unhappiness?
伤害我们的时候，我们会感受到多么的痛苦。
Similarly,
同样的，
the only difference is the time factor.
我们唯一所不一样的仅仅是时间的问题。
Otherwise, from the part of the neutral person,
从陌生人的角度上来说，
the person just want happiness and do not want
他和我
suffering,
一样，想要
just
快乐，不想
just
要
like ourselves.
和我们没有任何的分别。
Your neutral person once has been your dear mother,
这样的一个中性的人，陌生人，他在无始以来成为过我的母亲，
or your dear father,
或者父亲，
or your dear sister,
或者我的姐妹，
or your dear brother.
或我的兄弟。
So they have done the maximum benefit in over many past lifetimes.
因此，他们在无始以来给予了我们非常多的恩德，
And they also did the best thing to you, very grateful to oneself,
也给予了我
the
们
neutral person. So
做了很多很多的帮助。
now when they are suffering,
他们在经受痛苦的时候，
when all this, the neutral person, including the one that you visualize,
这些陌生人，包括我们所观想的这位陌生人，
are suffering,
他们都在经受着难以忍受的痛苦，
suffering both physical and mental pain,
他们的身体上，
mental suffering.
他们的心灵上。
Now, if we try to find who has the responsibility to save, to free their suffering,
我们去寻找出谁应该有这个责任去帮助他们。
you are shouldered with the responsibility to free
我们应该承担这样的一个责任，
them of their suffering.
去令他们获得解脱，从痛苦中解脱出来。
So you develop a sincere wish, to help
我们应该升起
the neutral person
愿望，
that you visualize in front of you and all the other neutral person.
对于所有的这些陌生人，我们面前所观想的，以及一切的陌生人，
Because it is very important to think that they are bereft of happiness, the real happiness. Bereft of happiness and are suffering. So it is your
我
responsibility
们应该要去观想，
to extend
我
love
们都在承担的是我们
and
的
compassion and to remove their suffering.
因此，对于我们来说非常重要的，我们应该要承担起来，
Therefore,
去
you
解脱他
exchange
们的痛苦。
self and other. You cherish others. You cherish the neutral person.
我们必须要去珍爱这些陌生人，
You give them love.
我们给予他们慈爱，
You give them compassion, your
给予他
compassion.
们悲心，
You give them your joy.
我们给予他们我们的快乐。
With this, you are satisfied.
我们这样子给予了之后，我们内心里面升起满足的心。
Then you come to your enemy now.
我们升起了这样的满足心之后，我们再来观想我们的敌人，我们讨厌的人。
Somebody to whom you consider as someone whom you dislike or your enemy. Why that person becomes your enemy?
比如这样的一个敌人，我们来问自己，为什么他们会是我们的敌人？
The person has become one's enemy without no cause. Without no cause, no condition, the person cannot become one's enemy.
没有任何的因缘，他们不会成为我们的敌人。
In certain way, we also contributed the causes.
我们自己也一定参与了这些因和缘，造成了他们是我们的敌人。
Similar like your close one and dear one,
我们的亲人，
your enemy want happiness.
我们的敌人和我们一样，
Do
想
not
要获得
want,
快乐，
do not want even an inch of suffering, pain.
连一丝毫的痛苦都不想要获得。
Your enemy, for a very short time, due to certain causes and conditions,
然后
become your enemy.
长时以来，因为特别的因和缘而成为我们的敌人。
But your enemy,
但是我们的敌人，
due to minor reason,
一些微小的原因，
the other person, your enemy become our enemy, your enemy.
因为一些很细小的因缘，而他们成为了我们的敌人。
But when the enemy, that person, just like your present dear one, close
但
one,
是他们和我们现在的亲人、
has
爱人，
over many past
一般
lifetime,
在无数生以来，
has breastfeasted,
来喂养过我们，
breastfeeded, given you all love,
给予我们的慈爱、
joy,
快乐，
happiness. In some cases, even sacrifice his or her life
在某些情况下牺牲了他们的生命，
for your well-being,
都是为了
for your happiness,
我们的快乐和健康。
as compared to the kindness
羞辱
that the enemy has brought over many lifetimes.
我们现世的母亲给予的一般，
The harm the enemy has done is nothing.
我们的敌人在无始以来，作为母亲时候给予我们的恩德，
That harm
现
is
在给予我们此生给予我们短暂的伤害来相比的话，
totally insignificant.
这些微小的伤害是完全可以忽略不计的。
And you are the present enemy.
而我们现在的敌人，
Just like your mother has done the maximum benefit,
犹如我们现世的
your present mother. Similarly,
无边的利益和爱心， 同样的，
someone whom you dislike or enemy has done the same thing like the present mother.
在无始以来，犹如现世母亲一般，也给予了我们同样的慈悲和照顾。
And then the enemy, even in your dream time, you want happiness. you do not want suffering.
哪怕我们在梦境当中，我们都想要获得快乐，我们都不想要痛苦。
Similarly,
同样的，
the enemy is a human being.
我们的敌人
The enemy has the capacity to feel pain and pleasure.
都是有情众生，他们都能够感受到快乐和痛苦。
They are worthy of your love.
他们与我一般，
They are recipient of your love and compassion.
我们的慈心和悲心，值得我们给予慈爱。
Regardless of your enemy's attitude,
无论他们对我们是如何的态度，
but you need to expand love and compassion
我们
for the
必须要
enemy.
对他们扩展我们的慈心和爱心，
Because by doing so,
因为我们如此的去做的话，
it is your own self-interest, it's your own benefit.
真正的获得利益的是我们自己。
And sending beings also very helpful, very helpful. No, sorry, your enemy also very helpful.
而我们的敌人
Many
也对我们有过很多的帮助，
great kind to you.
给予我们很多很多的恩德，
Truly, marvelous teacher.
是我们最上的老师。
Without enemy,
没有我们的敌人，
how can we practice compassion?
我们如何
How can we practice
慈悲心？
patience?
我们如何能够去修习忍辱心？
When it comes to practicing patience,
当我们谈论到忍辱心的修持的时候，
your enemy is the matchless teacher,
我们讨厌的人是我们不可比拟的老师，
which even your dearest one and the most kind teacher cannot provide.
哪怕我们最亲最近的人，我们最亲最近的老师都没有办法给予。
Your enemy is not enjoying, maybe enjoying happiness, but most probably
很有可能
suffering,
他们也在受苦。
tormented by afflictions.
当他们对我们造成伤害的时候，他们自己的内心也被烦恼所折磨。
When we cultivate negative emotion of affliction, how unhappy we are.
我们想象，当我们自己内心升起烦恼的时候，
Similarly,
升起这些
the enemy,
的时候，我们
when they are tormented with strong affliction,
同样的，当他们内心里面
they can never be happy.
他们不可能会获得。
They are bereaved of happiness. Now it is your
因此，
turn. It is our turn
是我们
to give them happiness,
来给予他们快乐，
which they are bereaved of.
愿他们
So
充满了快乐。
we sincerely cultivated
因
a
此，
genuine love,
我们对他们
genuine compassion, the genuine
真
love,
诚的升起，对他们升起
the
慈
true
心和爱心，
the true cause of love,
真正令我们产生
and
慈
also
悲心的
the compassion.
原因，同样以及悲心的原因。
How to get rid of their suffering.
怎么样子能够去帮助他们去除他们的痛苦？
Cultivate the wish to separate their suffering
因此，我们要升起这样的一种愿望，
with
我
the
想要帮助他们远离痛苦。
with the understanding of the benefits of self-cherishing attitude.
这些都是来源于我们对于了解真爱自我的 过失。
With this, your mind is so calm and satisfied by the power of the thought of such visualization.
通过这样子的观想和观察，我们的内心变得非常的有力量。
Then your mind rests at natural peace.
然后我们安住在当下的这样的一种平静与喜悦当中。
Your mind is freed from then all the expectation, all the hopes.
我们的内心远离了一切的期待，一切的期盼，
Is freed from many graspings.
远离了一切的执着。
In that natural peaceful state,
在这样的一个平静的状态下，
you are more satisfied.
我们内心获得了满足。
You have fulfilled the purpose of
我们
yourself and others.
已经完成了自己和他人的使命。
Okay.
大家有没有问题 ？Hello。今天我们课程就到这里，如果有什么问题的话呢，可以提出来。OK， 如果没有问题的话呢，我们就到这里，谢谢大家。
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't understand.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, you're welcome.